If I have the right to love who I want, why should I be in a position or feel that I'm in a position to question who my neighbor loves and why they love them?
So my journey with homosexuality starts from my childhood. I came from a very religious family that used the Bible as a foundation for how we lived our lives and engaged with others. And according to the Bible, homosexuals were people who were sinful. It was described in such a way that we were not meant to necessarily hate them, but to realize that these were people who weren't living a good life, and therefore we needed to distance ourselves from them.
Growing up, I went to an all-boys high school, and I remember very clearly how anytime there was, one or two boys who were, sort of slightly effeminate, they would always become victim of a lot of bullying. There were always jokes made about them. They were always oppressed by everybody else, and I will not deny that I, participated very actively in that.
I've never been homophobic. I was born here in South Africa, in apartheid South Africa, to American parents who were journalists, and they were here researching and studying and writing about the end of apartheid. And so from a very young age, I understood how terrible discrimination could be, how violent it could be, how much it could ruin people's lives.
So I was raised in a very strong Christian family, and we adhered to every word the Bible said. And one of the things that the Bible, speaks against is homosexuality. So I grew up thinking, this is wrong,
It's raining outside, oh that's so gay, we can't play football. And all these, they would say this over and over again. I remember thinking, I don't understand what this has to do with anything. I don't understand why this teacher giving a really bad grade is what that has to do with gay people.
My first encounter with a young lady called Flora Chan, who was a Chinese immigrant to the States, and she and I took econ classes together literally for the entire 4 years that I was at Bates. And the reason for that is because we became such strong friends. I would describe her literally as my personality clone from a Chinese culture. And I remember Flora coming to me one day and saying, "Theodore, I have something to tell you. I think I'm gay." That struck me really hard, because I had built a very strong personal relationship with this person, first without having a judgment, and now that she was telling me that she was quote-unquote sinful, my initial reaction was to actually defend her. And for people who were making derogatory comments, etc., it was really important that I made sure she felt safe and comfortable in the choices that were appropriate for her.
My first close relationship with someone who was a homosexual was when I was in college, and it's one of those where he was my best friend the first few weeks, and it's only at the end of the first term that he told me that he was a gay man, and it just made no difference to me. He was still Adam, who I would sit and watch Judge Judy with between our economics classes, and for me it just, people are people. I love my friends. I don't think it is fair to judge people for being who they are, for being born the way they're born. The same way that I fight against people who discriminate against women, or who discriminate against black people, or Indian people, or Asian people, or white people, is the same way that I would fight against those who discriminate against gay.
I had a male friend of mine who, our friends were trying to set us up, actually, as the people do in high school. And they were trying to be like, come on, go out with Kay, all this stuff. And I kind of knew it was happening, and I was kind of ignoring it. And one night after practice, he came up to me and he said, "So this friend of ours is trying to set us up, and on a scale of 1 to 10, Kate, you're an 11. But 11 times 0 is still 0. And then he started crying, and at first I didn't really understand. And then I realized that he was telling me he was gay.
I thought to myself, well, now I like this person, I want to be friends with her, but she's gay. What do I do then? So I actually decided that, I don't have to focus on who she chooses to love and who she chooses to have a romantic relationship with, but I can focus on all the things that are really great about her.
When I was growing up, there was 4 of us who were best friends. Myself, Joe, Rob and Chris. Chris came out as being gay when we were about 13 or 14. And at first we were like, whoa, Chris is gay, we've got a gay friend. And then it just became, we've got a friend. And we just did exactly the same things we always did. We teased him about the same things. We just had exactly the same giggles we always had.
One of my roommates one day over dinner came out and said that he was gay. At which point, it clicked for me right away that, wow, so what? That does not change anything. That does not make you any different than I am. You are smarter than I am, way more passionate about the world and people than I ever will be. You care a lot about everybody, and fundamentally you care about the same exact things that I care about.
That no matter how many things someone does, we still give them the opportunity to be the best that they can be.
So then I heard more and more of these stories, the personal stories, and I realized that the current SDG campaign is completely spot on. It's gay rights are just a small window of the larger human rights movement, and it's just such a fundamental battle for human independence or true human freedom that I think we should all pile on.
I suppose in retrospect, it was a lot easier to be part of a majority than to be part of a minority. And you don't ask questions when there is a very accepted way of being.
And that's it. I mean, like, Chris is Chris. People are people. Love is love.
It's abominable that it is a crime to love someone, and I think love is a universal principle. It should be available, and it is a freedom for everyone. I think that overcoming homophobia is so critical. I think those of us that are privileged to love whom we love openly should fight on behalf of those that can't, because this freedom is so important, and I think that we should fight it every day. We should fight it in the aggressions at the workplace that suggest that one should behave a certain way because one's gender, and the expectation should not be societal. I think I would much rather be in a loving relationship of whatever gender, between whichever genders, rather than one that society thinks is correct but is broken on the inside. So that's my story. I think go forth and fight homophobia.